Hello, everyone. Surprise, I'm back. I'm sitting in the chair again. It's been almost a month. For those of you who thought I was done, you haven't seen the last of me. I'm back. I was away for a little bit. I was at the beach. If I look any degree or shade tanner, which I probably don't, I was at the beach for a bit. And we were in the middle of figuring out some very exciting new developments for the podcast. I have my first guest on today, so there's a little bit of a hiatus because of that. Not only is this guest someone I'm just super excited about because he knows a lot about what we're talking about, but it's like one of my very good friends. So this is like almost going to be like a conversation where I forget that I'm recording and we're just going to be like shooting the shit for a bit, which will be really, really fun. Greg Price, welcome to Culture Shock. I'm really hyped that you're here. Do you want to give like a little intro for people who don't know you, which they probably do because you're kind of everywhere on the internet right now? Elon Musk just followed him, for anybody who cares. Give a little bit of like background just for who you are for people who have never seen you or heard you before.
Lindsay Wygo, I can't tell you how big of an honor it is to be the first ever guest on Culture Shock with Lindsay Wygo. You could have chosen anybody and you chose me, and it's a great honor. I'm Greg Price. I'm communications director for the State Freedom Caucus network. So working with the the House Freedom Caucus that everybody knows, but we're building it in the States, and that's what I do. And yeah, I'm on Twitter at Greg_Price11. I also make TikToks and do a couple other cool things.
He does.
So yeah, that's who I am. Great to be with you today.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm really excited. Also, congrats on Elon recently following you. That was a new feat for you. I know you've had some pretty cool things happen to you on the internet, but that might be like one of the coolest ones since I've known you for sure. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically, I talk about kind of whatever I want on this show. I do a lot of videos, not for the podcast, on like quick news of the day, things like that. For the past couple of days, and even a little bit, longer on and off than that, I've been talking about Hunter Biden because that's all I'm seeing. It's all I'm reading. It's probably giving people nightmares at this point because that's all that is going on in the news. In fact, what's cool about this, you being my first guest, is we are literally a stone's throw away from Wilmington, Delaware. Like our hometowns are so close. I went to high school in Wilmington. It is plastered all over the news lately. And not for good reason at all. Not for good reason. So we're going to jump into like the Hunter Biden beat. And basically there's so much we could like talk about here, but let's go from like the past like 24 hours because that is enough to fill like an easy episode with because so much has happened in the past 24 hours. Basically normal evening last night, right? Coming home from work, and then right around dinner time, this article drops. And that's when we start talking. We're talking Hunter Biden tomorrow. There's some stuff going on. What happened with this New York Post article that came out last night? For people who have no idea what I'm referencing, I'm not super like caught up on everything myself. So give a little bit of a background of like what started happening last night regarding this Hunter Biden story.
Yeah, I mean, every time you think it can't get crazier, they take it up like a couple notches. It feels like if Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy got with the writers of Suits and they went on a few of Hunter Biden's crack binges and then started writing a legal comedy drama. That's what it feels like we're in the middle of with Hunter Biden. And yeah, so he was in court today, and so last night, on the eve he's scheduled to go to court and apparently accept a plea deal, this information now comes out from the judge in the case, and she accused his lawyers of misconduct because earlier in the day yesterday, lawyers for the House Ways and Means Committee for the Republicans had filed an amicus brief in the case where they basically entered all of the testimony from the IRS whistleblowers that came forward to them into the public record in the case. And for people who didn't follow that, these IRS whistleblowers, there were multiple of them that came forward and basically talked about all of the DOJ's misconduct in the case against Hunter Biden. And it varied from things like, tipping off his legal team to search warrants that were being developed and the top brass at the DOJ preventing investigators from executing these search warrants. And, there was also that text message that's now gone viral where Hunter Biden was trying to extort his Chinese business partner for money by saying that his father was sitting in the room with him. And there was also another one where, the IRS had apparently recommended felony charges for Hunter Biden because he had gone all around the world making millions of dollars selling access to his family and didn't pay taxes on any of them. If you or I did that, we would be charged with felonies and go to jail for many years, but they gave Hunter Biden some sweetheart plea deals on misdemeanors for just failing to pay his taxes. Forget all of the shady business with people connected to Chinese military intelligence, for example. So the House Republicans sent all of that to put all of that in the public record in the case in this amicus brief. And then the judge comes out and is alleging that that somebody from the law firm representing Hunter Biden called up the court and basically misrepresented their identity and claimed that they were from the law firm representing the House Republicans, trying to get this information taken down from the record. And they did that. And the lawyers for the House GOP called them back and were like, hey, why did our filing get taken down? And they were like, oh, you called us earlier and did it. But it turned out to be this lady from Hunter Biden's legal team just calling up. It seems like something out of a Family Guy bit, but it apparently happened. And they tried to, they said it was just a big misunderstanding, when they responded to it. And, it's really weird how all of these coincidences and misunderstandings, they all seem to, go in one direction and favor Hunter Biden. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Just a misunderstanding, Lindsay, you see.
Right. It's very interesting, too, because if these coincidences happened for Republicans, it would be a lot more than just a coincidence, which, if I remember correctly, there were some signals from even years ago that Donald Trump kind of tipped off that there might be some sketchy things going on here with Hunter Biden. And that quite literally blew up just from, initiating an idea that, oh, maybe something fishy is going on here. But right, just a coincidence, right? Nothing more to look at, close the blinds, not a big deal. And okay, so that was last night. And then today, it's like whiplash, right? Every 5 minutes, it's like, oh, he's pleading guilty, he's not pleading guilty. Oh, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. What happened this afternoon as we were literally planning to talk about Hunter today? What is the latest on Hunter Biden in Wilmington?
Well, he's now pleaded not guilty. He completely rejected the plea deal in court, and there's now going to be, as of now, unless things change, a real trial with, discovery and cross-examination. And the way this happened is truly extraordinary. You think, Hunter Biden's lawyers making prank calls to the court trying to get this info taken down would be the most ridiculous thing that happens. But then Hunter Biden goes to court today, and the judge apparently, the DOJ had snuck, on top of the sweetheart plea deal, the DOJ had snuck into it immunity for Hunter Biden from future prosecutions. And so they go into court today, and the judge is like, wait a second, you're not only pleading guilty to, these two misdemeanors as well as for the illegal gun charge, but you also want immunity from future crimes that you may or may not be prosecuted for.
Right.
And she was like, no, this is completely ridiculous. And so that's what started all of this today. And then so they court goes away, and then they resume, and now all of a sudden, Hunter Biden didn't get his immunity, so now he's pleading not guilty. And again, yeah, there's going to be a very real trial now, I guess. And this judge,
I guess, right?
But you think about how corrupt this is, that not only are they allowing Hunter Biden to receive all, lower crimes and sentences for crimes that are very serious that would send anybody to jail for a very long time. Not only that, but they're trying to shield him from any future, investigations that he is apparently still involved of. And one of those is for violations of FARA, the Foreign Agent Registrations Act, which, people were talking about this when Hunter was first indicted by the DOJ about, hey, this guy was acting as, an agent of multiple foreign countries ranging from China to Ukraine and doing business there. And you have to register with the government in order to do that, or else it's a felony. But apparently he's under investigation for that. And he was trying to get immunity for himself from these future investigations. And so it's you got to love the brazenness. He goes in there and he's like, I'm going to accept this plea deal. But on top of that, I don't want to be prosecuted in the future. And if you take that away from me, now I'm pleading not guilty.
Yep.
And you got to wonder, if you're like Hunter Biden's lawyer, what the impetus would be for doing this. Like, but I guess
Right.
Hunter Biden's lawyer was also photographed taking a rip from a bong on the balcony at his house the other day. So, and then you apparently have other lawyers at this firm calling and impersonating other people. So it gives you an idea of the people representing him.
Right. Totally serious organization. Like, I don't know about you, but I really think that a lawyer ripping bong hits isn't a lawyer that I would want. You know, once again, no judgment to anybody else if they feel more comfortable with a lawyer who is who partakes in those types of things. You know, days. I'm pretty sure that was the day of like a very very important days going on here for this legal team. But don't worry, we're just gonna be documented outside ripping a bong in the morning. I'm pretty sure too. More power to you. But I totally agree with what you said, because we're talking about, like, you know, the immunity being like struck down and everything. It just proves that the details of this case and what we must not know, like other information, the public, we know that we're not in the know with what's actually going on. We never are. There's always more to a story. It's interesting that the details of this case must clearly be like way more outrageous and like far out there than we thought, right? Otherwise, why would someone even fight for immunity?
Yeah, I mean, well, when they were in court today, the judge basically asked, hey, are there other, investigations that are currently ongoing? And apparently there are, and we don't know what, all of those were for, but they apparently mentioned FARA in court today. But yeah, imagine what else there is. I mean, this is Hunter Biden we're talking about. The guy, commits crimes like people breathe. He on top of, disowning his 4-year-old daughters, and in between his crack binges and sleeping with his dead brother's widow, this guy, but he's honestly living the American dream. He can do literally anything.
Whatever he wants.
He can do anything. And, it's good, as Mel Brooks once said, it's good to be the king, and it's certainly good to be the son of the king. They have the power, and they're using it to shield Joe Biden's family members. They're using the DOJ basically as their own personal law firm at this point, as we've learned from, all this information from the whistleblowers from the IRS and that are in the public record, is that, basically the new standard is that this guy can do whatever he wants. And meanwhile, they're targeting Trump with all of these, very frivolous indictments and things that nobody else in the world would be charged with or being gone after for by the DOJ if they weren't, the top opponent for the current president in the next election. And, that's the thing. We have two tiers we have two systems of justice in this country. And most people have woken up to it at this point, but not enough people have. That there's one sets of rules for people in power and one sets of rules for everyone else. And, that's been put on a full display in many different ways over the last couple of years. But,
right.
We're seeing it firsthand when it comes to the non-prosecution of the president's son for essentially selling out the country, trading, making millions of dollars, selling access to his family on top of the illegal gun charges and the violations of FARA and the alleged bribery. And you gotta, with all the bribery stuff that's come out, where the Bidens took bribes in order to get the prosecutor fired that was investigating the Ukraine gas company that Hunter sat on the board of. Donald Trump was impeached simply for asking one single question to Zelensky on a phone call about why this prosecutor had been fired, about, who was investigating this corruption. He got impeached for that, and then we learned, hey, there is an FBI file alleging that bribes may have been involved. This is the corruption goes insanely deep on this.
The corruption goes insanely deep to shield the Biden family still, though, right? Like, all of this coming out, and there's still, if we were to level up, the Republican with Trump in this and then the Bidens, it doesn't even come close. And it's funny, as I was wondering when you mentioned shielding the Biden family, if you happened to catch CNN's coverage of the verdict, CNN wasn't even able to spin that the judge smacked it down. It was the first time I think I've ever seen CNN deliver a straight news story, because it was just that hilarious, and it couldn't be spun. Did you happen to catch that?
Well, yeah, they were the ones who kind of were who first started, reporting all of the details of the plea deal that didn't become a plea deal. Yeah, I mean, there's no way for the media to spin this. Like, it is serious stuff, and they can try to spin it, and they really, and they haven't even maybe they'll start covering the whistleblowers at this point, because the whistleblowers were basically ignored until they couldn't be ignored when the first reports came out. The New York Times and the Washington Post didn't even write a story on it until they started actually putting their faces out there and testifying before Congress. But it's a very serious thing, and if this you sound like a broken record from saying it, but if it were the Trump family, if if Don Jr. and Eric Trump did like half of the things that Hunter Biden had done, they would have had their doors kicked down in a pre-dawn raid by the FBI a very long time ago. And
exactly
that's exactly what would have happened. Like that, like I said, there are two standards when it comes to a politician like Donald Trump that threatens the establishment power in D.C. versus Joe Biden, who sort of embodies it. And that's exactly, what we're seeing here put on full display. And it's kind of rewritten the legacy, as I said, of the first Trump impeachment, but of a lot of things that happened, during the Trump era, a lot of the DOJ misconduct, like they turned over the lives of the Trump family like 5 times over to try and like find something wrong that they did. You had the current Attorney General of New York who like ran for office on the promise of prosecuting Donald Trump. You have the DOJ and indicting Donald Trump under Espionage Act charges, which is a blatantly unconstitutional relic of World War I. And they're indicting him for that because he took presidential records from the White House that he was fully authorized to declassify as the president of the United States. And, he's now facing these indictments for it, whereas they've essentially shielded the Bidens. That's exactly what we've learned from all of the information in the public record from these whistleblowers and others. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
I'm curious what you think about this. Do you think that we're going to see any like liberal like hit pieces about the judge and the judge's background, right? Like, it's not uncommon for unhappy people to do a little bit of to do a little doxing, as you would say. What are your thoughts on that? You think that like anything's coming based off of it today?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think we'll probably see something like that. I'm pretty sure it's a Trump-appointed judge, and it is a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware that's prosecuting the case. And I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but yeah, I'm fully expecting headlines that say, Republican judge is targeting the Bidens unfairly or something by rejecting what was already a sweetheart plea deal with immunity on top of it. But yeah, that could certainly happen. There is a presidential election coming up, and the mainstream media serves establishment power in Washington, D.C. And, they're not going to just going to stop doing that because it's Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or anybody else. All of these people want Joe Biden to win, and they don't want Donald Trump to win. So I'm fully expecting that to happen.
Yeah, and they will do absolutely whatever they can to make sure that doesn't happen. And what's interesting is, backing up a little bit, as you've noticed, and many news outlets, not just, Town Hall has covered, all of the protecting and like the hiding that KJP has done and Joe Biden himself has done whenever they are asked about the president's involvement with his son and his business dealings. I believe there are even quotes now saying zero interaction, zero involvement. I had no idea these calls even existed with regarding Hunter's personal business dealings, that there will be an absolute wall. That's a direct quote from Joe Biden, an absolute wall between, his personal and his presidential matters. And now they're claiming never been discussed at all. But however, thanks to a Democrat, actually, that great clip of Dan Goldman recently, who kind of said like the quiet part out loud, if you will, about what everybody has been asking KJP about, he kind of slipped up a bit. Are you able to talk a little bit about what he kind of revealed by accident the other day?
Well, yeah, I mean, the White House, at least, has completely shifted the goalposts on what Joe Biden's involvement was in this. Like, and here's the thing, there are now, like, people on the record saying that Joe Biden was involved in these business dealings with his son. You have two of Hunter Biden's former business partners, one being Tony Bobulinski, who we've all seen the clips of, his interviews with Tucker, etc., saying that Joe Biden was involved and profited off of this. And then you had Devin Archer, who's another one of Hunter Biden's former business partners, you basically going on record and is apparently scheduled to testify before Congress soon about how Joe Biden, he was on speakerphone. He witnessed Joe Biden on speakerphone talking with Hunter Biden as well as executives from Burisma. And, so and as a result, people like Karine Jean-Pierre have completely, shifted the goalposts on Joe Biden's involvement. Originally, the narrative was Joe Biden never spoke to his son about his foreign business dealings. There's the famous clip of him saying that to Peter Doocy during the election in 2019. And now you have Karine Jean-Pierre in the White House briefing room basically saying the new line is Joe Biden was never involved in business with his son. So it's gone from they never discussed it to having to deny that Joe Biden was involved, even though there's now plenty of evidence from firsthand witnesses that Joe Biden was involved and that Joe Biden profited off of this, even when he was serving as vice president. And so it's really funny to watch them accidentally, to watch them gaslight us and shift the goalposts in real time.
And just accidentally slip and say, okay, well, Joe Biden and his son did talk. They did communicate. It's like, that's what we've been trying to argue this entire time. That's what we've been trying to say, that has been happening, and they're trying to keep that behind closed doors and say that, that's not a thing. That's never happened. That's not a matter that we're dealing with today. And basically to round out, we'll just end with a question that's pretty open-ended here. Where's the laptop? Where do you think where's the laptop right now in all of this?
Well, I mean, the reason we know most of this is because of the laptop being reported, by the New York Post, by Emma Jo Morris during the 2020 election. And the laptop's everywhere at this point. We've all seen, we've against our will seen all of Hunter Biden's nudes and crack binges that have been on the laptop, in addition to all of the evidence of criminality that involves him and his family. And, we've learned so much about it just from this one laptop alone. These same people who called it Russian disinformation during the 2020 election are now having to come to grips with the fact that the stuff on it is serious. All of this stuff isn't going away. It's going to be a huge issue in the next election. All of the corruption and all of the criminality that we've seen. These are going to be headaches for Team Biden going into 2024. And as you said, when you mentioned CNN's coverage of it today, it's getting to the point where the mainstream media can't spin and can't ignore it anymore. They'll probably do their best in order to do it, but they really can't. The laptop was always real. The laptop was never, Hunter Biden getting really high on crack and dropping his laptop off at a repair shop and never coming to pick it up. That was never Russian disinformation, as it turns out. That was always a very real thing that happened. And yeah, it's not going away. The criminal cartel that is the Biden family, it's very real. It is. They are a criminal family in every way, in every sense of the word.
Perfect summary there at the very, very end. Criminal family in every sense of the word criminal. Any last thoughts that I didn't really cover with you, that things you've noticed going on in the media? Somebody who I feel like you exclusively are on Grabian and always catching C-SPAN all the time. Is there anything that you're interested, regarding, Hunter and this particular case going forward that you're excited about or just curious about coming up next for him?
Well, I mean, I'm just curious to see where it goes from here, because whenever you think it can't get any more insane, it gets more insane. And obviously we've learned about how the DOJ has gone through extraordinary lengths to protect the Biden family. But, as I said, he's now rejected a plea. For now, he has rejected this plea deal that he was supposed to get, which means there's now going to be a very real trial where evidence is presented in court. Things that we probably haven't seen that are either sealed or haven't been released publicly. And there's no telling what could be in there or what could come next. There's also no telling what how the DOJ is going to respond to this and what steps that they may or may not take in order to keep protecting the Bidens. And, so I'm just, we'll see where it goes from here. Crazy stuff has been happening in this every single day. It feels like every 10 minutes at this point.
Right.
And so, break out your popcorn because it's definitely going to get a lot more interesting. And, Hunter Biden's problems and the problem that he presents to the Biden administration are here, and it's going to be a very serious issue coming up in the next few months.
Perfect. Greg Price, shout out your Twitter and shout out your organization's Twitter again for people who might have missed it in the beginning. Greg is always online, like chronically online in a very good way. He's one of the first to everything. Like it's like Greg's in a news organization like on his own. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like you follow him for more than, a day and you'll realize that. Give one more shout out to everything where people can find you and your TikTok and all of that.
Yeah, Greg_Price11 on Twitter and TikTok, and the State Freedom Caucus Network is the organization. We're working to take it to the establishment, not just in D.C., but in state capitals all over America. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. It was great.
Yeah. Yes, I know. It was so exciting. Thanks for being my like trial run of a first guest. I really happy we were able to do this. But until next time, everyone, thanks for listening to this different, fun new episode of Culture Shock. Once again, that was Greg Price. I'm very excited to have him be the first guest on here. And until next time, make sure if you're going to smoke crack or hit a bong, don't do it on your balcony. Make sure you do it inside because you don't want to be photographed on some very important legal days in your career. But all right, everybody, I will see you next time.